Hey everyone, this is Chad Moses here with Two Right Love on Our Arms, and you are listening to the Heavy Mental Breakdown Podcast.
Two right love on her arms. I can't believe I'm saying that on my show. It just sounds so cool. I know you already said it, but I'm like, Chad from Two Right Love on Her Arms. I just wanted to say it because it's
well, hey, you can say it as often as you like. It's yours
okay.
now.
Cool. I wanted to start off. I wanted to let you know. So my very first job when I was 15 was Hot Topic.
Right on.
And that was like 2005, 2006, the latest. And yeah. I remember selling a bunch of your shirts at Hot Topic.
Yes, you did.
They were flying off the racks.
Yeah.
They were flying off. I remember we had an end cap when we had like display t-shirts. And so right when you walk in, it was always right there. Yeah. And I just remember just thinking like, I love what they're doing. This is so cool. I had a couple of them myself.
Right on. And you probably got a lot of these questions then too. Like, hey, are they putting out a new album? Hey, where can I get their single? So, yeah.
I was never asked that. I think everybody knew who you were. And if they didn't, they asked, what's Two Right Love on Her Arms? And then I would go into a little bit of detail. We also at that time had like guitar picks that said music equals life on it and sold the wristbands and like everyone was all about it. I don't know if they're still in Hot Topics. Do you know?
So not at the moment. Hot Topic has definitely gone through a shift recently to be, less music centric and more just kind of just pop culture, like different kind of or like fringe culture stuff,
Yeah.
But yeah. So I mean, I guess just for the folks who've been listening up to this point, they're like, what do they keep saying? What's that sentence? Two right love on our arms. So if this is the first time you're hearing about us, we are a mental health advocacy nonprofit. We exist to present hope and find help for anyone struggling with mental health challenges, stuff like depression, addiction, self-injury, anxiety, thoughts of suicide, you name it. If you're walking through something that feels too heavy to carry on your own, we exist to build better bridges to connect people to local and affordable options for mental health care.
That's amazing.
When we got started, a lot of that was funded directly through the sale of t-shirts. Hot Topic was a huge part of our story as we were really starting to get our footing beneath us. But all the rock nostalgia that you can throw at us, whether it's Warped Tour or
that was going to be my next thing. It was going to be Warped Tour.
So really, for us, we've been around for 20 years, and at the heart of that has always been about meeting people where they naturally come together. Back in 2006 when this started, that meant Warped Tour and MySpace and Hot Topic, and now we're just about anywhere that opens a door to us. So including podcasts. Podcast was not on our radar back in 2006, but here we are.
Yeah. So you guys so you know what? I didn't realize that you guys started right when I basically started Hot Topic. So I've seen you guys from like inception to now.
You could make the case, Matthew, that this is all your fault. So yeah, man. Yeah. So we get to turn 20 at the end of March, which is wild. When this began, there was no guarantee that this would be something that lasted more than a few weeks or months. And you look at the life cycles of so many social movements, so many nonprofits, and few things get to turn even 5 years old. And here we are. 20 years into the story, really seeing it pay generational dividends. It's wild.
It's remarkable. So before we really get into the thick of things, tell us a little bit about Chad. What's your story, Chad? Where are you from? What music were you listening to? Just a little bit of a background of yourself.
Totally. So I'll tell you where I am now. I work for To Right Love on Our Arms, just like I have for the past, we're going on 18 years.
Wow.
In at the end of May. And I've served this organization nonstop since getting down here to serve as an intern. And since I came down here, and here is Melbourne, Florida. So just about an hour east of Mickey Mouse, right by the beach. And My role has really been trying to meet people where they naturally come together. So that puts me on the road a lot. I've worked, we're getting close to 500 different music festivals over the past
Wow.
2 decades. And
500 different ones.
well, some of them are repeats,
Oh,
year after
gotcha.
year.
Okay.
But I've set up that tent, thousands of times to be right in the thick of where people run to make sense of their lives. And
Yeah.
why I do that is I know firsthand the value of music, the value of community, the value of other people being a part of your story. So often, you'll hear To Write Love on Our Arms say your story is important, but what we don't want to get lost in there is this idea that your story is only your story. The reality is what makes a story is its ability to be shared, right?
Absolutely.
And that's the same way with music. Like, songs exist to be shared. You can almost say that a song doesn't exist until it finds that audience. So in many ways, looking back on my story, I am fully aware and fully humble to the fact that I'm here because of other people, people who loved me despite the reasons I gave them not to. And then having to come to terms with the idea that I was utterly incapable of convincing my friends that they couldn't love me. They made that choice on their own, and I'm so thankful they did. That launched me into some healing journeys. So taking a step backwards in my story, I work for To Write Love because I know the reality of mental health challenges. That mission statement I was walking you through. Depression was and is still a piece of my story. Substance abuse was a huge piece of my story. Self-injury was a piece of my story. Suicidal ideation was a piece of my story. And when I first found To Write Love on Our Arms, I was really struck by the bravery, not in just the story, but the posture of the story. This was a story that was unfolding in real time. The name To Write Love on Our Arms was the name of a literal story about our friend Renee and her first 5 days finding help with drug addiction and with self-injury. And as I'm reading her story of finding help, what really struck me as unique was, I grew up in a culture where I would hear people's stories. I would hear about the valleys. I'd hear about the rough parts, but only when it was years and even decades in the rearview mirror, right?
Yeah.
But here we have something that's happening in real time, something that hasn't had the benefit of being polished, hasn't had the benefit of being abridged, hasn't had the benefit of having edits, done to it. But this is something that we're talking about as it's happening. So as someone that was struggling with all of these challenges, realizing man, my life does not have to be put together before I start sharing it.
Right.
What a beautiful concept. So from that moment that I read the story the first time, this was in early 2007, I was moved. I was moved to the idea that, maybe the shit in my life could have positive effects on other people, that I don't have to hide parts of myself. In fact, I'm someone that deserves to be fully known. So so I'm here today, 20 years down the road, as a testament of what friends can do. People that weren't mental health counselors at that time, but were there providing tremendous mental health value to my life. And I've been talking for a minute, so I'll cut myself off for now, so we can get some better questions.
This is your interview, Chad. You can go as long as you want.
Okay, well, let me take you all the way back. So
No, you're good.
In no small part, me taking a risk to come down to Florida to start working for this organization, that was a huge step, a step I didn't know was as big in the moment than as it's really turned out to be. So I learned about the organization as I was just about ready to leave college, and I thought at that point my life would be pretty uh, pretty linear. I thought, I would eventually get a job for the music management firm that I had interned for, all through college, and I thought, I had the rest of my life right in front of me. And what originally felt like a defeat when I was talking to my mentor at that management firm. He said, we love you. We don't have a job opening for you. If you want to keep interning, we're happy to have you. But if you need to look elsewhere, just know that we have your back. And, that felt like a big bummer, just a few months before graduating. Like, what am I going to do? This was something that I put a lot of my hopes and dreams behind. And it was right around that time that I got that heartbreaking news that I wouldn't be working as a music manager, that I learned about the organization. And I learned about the organization when I was just, very, very fresh into my recovery from substance abuse and from self-injury. And everything seemed to line up. Because, there were, it seemed like a cool notion, this To Write Love on Our Arms. And I saw bands wearing the shirts and all that. So I wanted to be like these bands. So I bought a shirt, I bought a pack of pins, I bought, some info cards to pass out. And it just felt like something exciting to get behind. Yeah. And as my final semester was starting to really come to a close, part of my personal recovery journey was wanting to leave my university environment with gratitude on my lips. So I made a schedule and I took out a bunch of my favorite professors to lunch or coffee just to thank them for everything that they had taught me. Wow, and for bearing with me in the the darkest parts of my journey. And as I'm getting towards the bottom of that list, I realized, I should take out my mentor at Red Light at the management firm. And so I take him out to lunch, and he notices a To Write Love on Our Arms button on my backpack. And he goes, wow, like, about these guys? I'm like, yeah, man, like, I'm all about it. I think they're onto something really cool. And he said, actually, I just started working with the Switchfoot team, and they're all about it too. And, I think you should work for To Write Love on Our Arms. And I'm like, all right, cool. I don't know what that means. And he goes, I don't know what that means either, but I know that they work with music and you're good at that. And this is obviously a cause that you care about. So, put all your heart behind that. And Chad, now's the time to take a risk. Mm-hmm. Like, if you see something cool, go and get it now. Don't say, you'll do it when you get comfortable, because I promise you will never be comfortable enough to take that risk. So just do it now. And if you fall on your face, you have the rest of your life to make up for it. But now is a chapter break. So, so I moved down from Virginia, where I grew up, down to Florida, about 800 miles away, to start this new chapter. And that new chapter is still going. I haven't turned another chapter yet. So.
Yeah, that's all amazing. Let me tell you a little bit about Heavy Mental Breakdown and kind of how I've been inspired by, because you had brought up the word bravery. And I constantly think that in my head. I have had so many bands on here, metal bands, rock bands, any genre you can think of in the music, in the rock and roll music space. And I can't even describe to you how brave some of these people are. They come on and tell their stories about substance abuse and suicidal ideology and depression, ADHD, just any... I'm bipolar, and so we talk about bipolar on the podcast, and I think it's really brave of people to come on here. And what's different about this podcast is that we break down their song lyrics. So we'll pick one song that means so much to them, and we'll listen to it together, we'll read the lyrics together, and we'll just talk about it. And I try to find out more about them through their song lyrics.
Yeah.
And it's been such an amazing, inspiring chapter in my life. Um, so going back 4 years ago, I was the most depressed I had ever been, and I attempted suicide, and was in the hospital for a couple days. Just really, really down and out. And I remember the first thing that I did when I got home from the hospital was I put on Hyper Theory by Linkin Park. I put on Meteora, Somewhere I Belong, or just all those tracks, and I just laid on my couch and cried all day because of what I just went through. I never thought I would do that. I never thought I would be at a place so low. And I started to realize just how much in the rock and roll space, I don't think there's enough mental health talk in the metal space and about the lyrics themselves, because it's the lyrics that got me through it.
Yeah.
It was life changing. And I was on YouTube one day because one of my favorite songs is Snuff by Corey Taylor.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, especially his acoustic version. It's so beautiful. But I remember thinking, I'm like, I want to know more about this song. I want to dive into Corey's mind and find out a little bit more about him through these lyrics. And I found interviews of him talking about it, but it wasn't enough for me. And I was like, you know what? I think this is an idea. There's something that I'm looking for that I can't find. And so I want to create it. And throughout that entire process of just learning how, because it definitely took me a while to do it, I was terrified. I was like, come on a podcast and tell the world I'm bipolar. And then I attempted suicide. I'm just like, I don't know if this is going to work for me. And I don't know if anybody's going to want to come on and tell their story. And I just recorded episode 71 yesterday.
Oh, wow, man. That's awesome.
Yeah. I can't believe it. There's bands telling me they have to debrief with themselves after my interviews because they want to check in and like, hey, are you all right? Just want to make sure you're all right after that interview.
Yeah.
Just because it gets really deep sometimes. And I have so long searched for a purpose for my life. That's been one of my strongest, deepest things that I've always gone through, which is I've been searching for that. And I think I found it doing this. It's rock and roll literally saved me from my deepest, darkest space. And I have wanted to dedicate my life to music and to helping people. I had an office job for a really long time, and I just remember sitting in the desk and just be like, I can be doing so much better for the world right now than sitting here doing spreadsheets. And I kind of stepped away from it for a little bit, and I started this, and I've been doing this full time now. So I've dedicated my life to talking to people, making them feel like they're not alone, and telling them my story, because I can kind of relate to so many different people, mood swings with the bipolar, the anger, the depressive thoughts, the manic episodes, the suicidal ideology. And I went through a divorce, which really tore me apart, which led to the attempt. And so when people talk about relationships and the struggles with that, like, I just feel like there's so many different ways that I can relate to people. And yeah, a lot of them thank me after the interviews. They're like, I haven't even dug this deep into my own lyrics until this point. And they're like, I didn't know I really wrote it that way. And they were like, I didn't know somebody can take my lyrics and relate it to their life as much as you just did. And so I feel like I'm making an impact in some of these artists' life. And, it's not just about me to come on, and because it's definitely my therapy. I see all these kind of as therapy sessions for myself, someplace where I can go and talk to someone who I connect with and tell my story and hear theirs. And so it's been kind of addicting. I think that's why I've done so many, because it just feels so good afterwards. And I definitely feel this is my purpose, to help people through music, because music's what saved me. So
well, dude, let me be Yeah, I was just gonna say, I'm sure I'm not the first to say it, but let me be the most recent to say I'm glad you're here,
Thank
and
you. Me
I'm
too.
glad you stayed,
Yeah.
and I think you hit it right on the head. Like your purpose is gonna be bigger than just the things you want, but you really find your purpose in opportunities to make this world a little bit smaller, for people to feel a little bit less alone, to feel
Mm,
allow people to feel seen and heard and cared for, people that notice, and that's
yeah.
such a simple thing that originally, I think social media was really good at in helping people feel like their existence mattered, and quickly it dovetailed into something toxic, something that made us feel like that we should be lying or altering how we share bits of our lives, and then I think we're coming back full circle again to what are ways that we can authentically relate to other people. What you mentioned earlier, that these conversations can feel like therapy, and that's something that we're seeing really come to the surface from coast to coast, even internationally, is this idea of peer support, that
Yeah.
not everyone needs a counselor, but everyone needs a friend.
Yeah.
Everyone needs someone
Absolutely.
that they relate to. So we're
Yeah.
all about fostering these
Yeah.
therapeutic relationships.
There's been so many artists that have come on here and they're like, this is the first time I've really spoken to someone about how deep my depression is through my music and how I display it. And they're like, I feel like we just have a bond now. They're like, I was able to open up to you and talk to you, and you've made me feel very safe on this podcast. And I'm really good friends with a lot of the bands now. A lot of the bands that are on here are actually becoming friends with other bands that were on here, and
Oh,
they're
that,
telling their bands about, hey, I got bands sending other bands my way.
yeah.
And so it's kind of just grown and people are becoming friends, and it really is creating this really crazy music community out here, um, which is really cool. Um, One thing that I wanted to go back to with To Write Love on Our Arms. So this started 20 years ago. Mental health wasn't that talked about 20 years ago. I feel like in the last 5, 6, I don't know, something like that years, it's really come to a place that it's okay to talk about it. But I feel like back when Hot Topic days, I wasn't telling anybody about my emotions and um, anything like that. And so, how have you seen the growth of people talking about mental health from when you first started to now?
Yeah, man. So the conversation has absolutely shifted. When I started working for the organization back in 2008, really so much of our energy was dedicated to pounding the table, saying it's about damn time we talk about mental health. And then you're right, in recent years that's shifted. I don't need to encourage people to talk about it. In fact, I would say now more than ever, a lot of this, thanks to Gen Zers out there, are willing to talk about some heavy stuff.
Yeah.
But one thing that we haven't seen is this direct correlation between people talking about it more and that resulting in more people accessing therapeutic relationships, whether that's with a counselor or a psychiatrist or a peer support group. So we still, even though we've gotten more comfortable talking about it, we still haven't achieved, getting over that hurdle of accessing the care that you deserve. It's great that we have a better vocabulary and more familiarity with this, but really, we need to do more work in ensuring that people get access to care. And to be frank, a lot of those remaining barriers are financial. That in the United States, not everyone is insured, and that sucks. That means people aren't able to get care that they deserve. And that was something else that's really shifted over the past 20 years. When we were first getting started, it was right when a bunch of this kind of new wave of nonprofits came to the surface. If you remember Invisible Children, they were out there trying to stop a war in Africa that was conscripting children to fight in these wars. Charity Water was getting started. That was all about getting clean water to remote places just for basic health needs. Tom's Shoes, even though they weren't a nonprofit, they were highly philanthropic. That was trying to get shoes onto the feet of impoverished people across the globe. And then it was us. And it was weird to say that we were a social justice movement back then. Like it hit almost too close to home, that we weren't solving a problem overseas. We were trying to solve the problem of the person we see in the mirror. We were trying to solve the problems of people that we work with, that we go to school with, that we go to church with, that we live with. There are our parents, there are siblings, there are kids, all struggling. And this felt like a disconnect. But now, and especially in the wake of COVID-19, we're seeing more and more voices step up to saying, look, like, you can't talk about mental health without talking about physical health, without talking about racial inequalities, without talking about gender dynamics, without caring for our queer friends, family, and neighbors, without talking, about all of these things that make us us. We're not talking about mental health, and we're talking about mental health is all these things. How we relate to the world around us, how we see ourselves in that world. And if there is a place where you feel too heavy in that world, if you ever wake up and believe, man, like this world might be better off without me, what if I am a burden? Hear this loud and clear.
Yeah.
Burdens are things that you have. They are not things that you are. So
I like that.
Look, man, if today was heavy, you can put it down and trust that there's going to be people to help carry that through. So, man, I don't even remember where that question started, but we ended on a soapbox.
It was just how you've seen mental health evolve throughout the years and people being more open about it.
Yeah, I think I if I didn't hit the target, I was pretty close to it.
Yeah.
But yeah, the conversation has changed, and in the thick of that, we've also seen how people communicate has changed. So that's kept us on our toes. But one thing that has remained constant, that ties it all back to Heavy Mental Breakdown, is people still find music to be a safe place.
Yeah,
people
absolutely.
Still see music as reminders that there's things in life worth singing about, and there's things in life worth dancing about. There's things in life worth screaming about.
Yeah.
But as we said earlier, there's things in life worth sharing with other people.
Yeah.
So,
I love that you said screaming about, because I am always talking about that. There's something about screaming something bad just to get it out.
Yeah.
A lot of times people say scream into a pillow, or put your head underwater and scream to get it out. But these rock stars and artists are up there screaming things, and that's their therapy. Some of these artists get off stage and cry. They're like, man, I really needed that moment. I needed it. And so screaming something, or a drummer getting the physical act of hitting something, all of that, bass players, or the way they hit those strings. And it's just, all of that is so therapeutic for artists. And what I'm finding a lot too is a lot of artists are seeing their kind of rehearsals and band practice as their therapy too. They're like, these band members, these are our family. We're talking about and writing these lyrics that are so deep, and you just have to feel safe with them. You have to, and they're doing that. And I think these bonds between the bands, it's pretty special. I never really got that side of it until I started really talking to bands. But yeah, to have that support system in music where you can physically get things out and scream with each other. Yeah. It's incredible.
Just a few months ago, back in end of October, early November, we had a chance to go sailing with Lamb of God. They invited
That's
us
so cool.
to be part of the Headbangers boat, and on the
uh,
ship we hosted a primal scream therapy course.
Amazing.
So
I love that.
we talked about that. We talked about
Yeah.
the physical expression of deeply rooted emotions, and our friends Candace from our friend Liz from she sings for Brat, and Candace from who does Candace perform with? It's gonna come back to me in just a little bit. Yeah, so we had two metal vocalists teach us how to scream without hurting ourselves. Just really working on getting it out, talking about the lyrics, talking about, there's a difference between reading a transcript and hearing someone communicate those words,
Yeah. Absolutely.
in a passionate way. And
you can feel the emotion in their
Yeah,
voice, and that's what it was, especially with that Corey Taylor acoustic. I can hear there were some lines he was singing where his voice was kind of shaking too. And he even said before he performed it, he said, I might need some help with this song, with these lyrics. And oh man, yeah, you can hear Chester Bennington, Chris Cornell, voices like that, the voices of a generation, just letting their soul, like having their soul just in the music is just, it's something that it's always given me chills, and it's always inspired me, just how they project their voice.
Yeah.
A projection of a voice is very powerful, like you said.
And it was Candace from Walls of Jericho. For
very cool.
So,
very cool.
So some good New England hardcore for you.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I think that's a huge piece of it. And to me, like the screams, indicate some sense of urgency. There's something that needs to get out, that if this wasn't let out at some point, then you would feel a difference in a different way. That these are things that you've never been expected to carry alone and within yourself. But there is something beautiful, if not always aesthetically pleasing, but there is something beautiful about letting some pieces of you out. And
yeah. Sometimes that release of the scream kind of helps the release of the emotion at the same time.
Sure. Yeah, man.
And it's been really cool because a lot of the bands, I one of the questions I always ask them is, how did the release of the song feel with all these different emotions that you feel? How did it feel releasing it to the world? And now everybody knows, a little bit more about you, but they're able to then dissect the lyrics and then make it their own. And the number one answer is always, that's my goal, is to make somebody feel something.
Yeah. And we see that, really take place millions of times throughout any festival that we go to. Like, if you think for a moment about your favorite artist, your favorite song, your favorite album, it's probably your favorite because it reminds you of something true about you. Something that doesn't have to feel hidden or buried, or maybe it's a truth about your life that you have looked away from for too long. But seeing someone else name a struggle that sounds familiar, all of a sudden that makes it feel less scary. It's just to get a little bit vulnerable here, you see the spot on my nose. That's I just had a skin cancer spot removed, and thankfully I'm healthy. And
Amazing.
But what I have found in the process of healing is people in my community will see that and be like, oh, I know exactly what you're going through. I know it can be embarrassing to go out. I had the same thing. In fact, let me show you where my incision was, it was right here, and you can't even see it anymore. Like, so you get this bit of encouragement.
Yeah.
And all it took for me was swallowing my pride for an instant to take the Band-Aid off and go outside so that my skin can heal the way that it wants to. If I kept it under a bandage, now that it's in the process of healing, it wouldn't heal right. but
Yeah.
there's something true about needing the tender parts of ourselves to get some air, to get some visibility.
Yeah.
That way people can care for me in ways that I've never given them access to before. It's allowing my body to do what it wants to do in the presence of other people as well. So it's yeah,
Yeah.
it's I almost started this interview asking if it'd be okay camera off, but now that I found this metaphor, I kind of want to lean in a little more.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the more people that talk about it, it inspires others to talk about it. And
Yeah,
it's kind of the snowball effect of like, oh, this person talked about it. Because that's what I'm finding on this podcast too. Because there was a lot of bands who didn't want to do it at first. They're like, I don't know. It's a very vulnerable spot. And then a couple months later, hit me back up and be like, hey man, I really want to do this. I really want to do this now.
and I think that that's a shift that we see in the world of mental health pretty frequently. Like the hope of this, and not to put words in your mouth, Matthew, but you wouldn't be doing this for 71 episodes if your intentions were different. But the hope is not that people would leave this episode saying, "Oh wow, Matthew's a really cool guy," or "Oh wow, Chad's really really rad." The hope is that someone out there, someone watching, someone listening can feel like their life is a bit less lonely, that you can have proof that people have gone through some deep shit and are still going. Look,
Yeah.
like my life and my recovery has not gotten me to some paradise. I've not graduated to utopia. I've just gotten back to something that feels more normal, right? And my goal in life is not to achieve ultimate comfort. It's hopefully to achieve more real conversations, to have more friends, to
Absolutely.
to be a little bit better trusted, in the scope of someone's
be
life.
that person that somebody needs, who they know will understand and connect with them on that human level of emotions.
Yeah.
One thing that I wanted to go back to that I wanted to go back to, because it relates to something that I was asked recently. You had said, 20 years later, there's still more work to be done.
Oh, absolutely.
And the other day, I got asked a question by one of the artists, because they were kind of seeing all the things that we're doing. And she asked me, she goes, "You must be pretty proud of yourself from all this stuff that you're doing." And it took me a minute. I was just like, huh, I've never even thought about that. Am I proud of myself for this? And the first thing that came to mind was one of my favorite quotes from Kobe Bryant. He said, "Job not finished."
Yeah.
Job not finished. He was up 2-0 in one of the playoff series, and one of the reporters asked him, "Hey, you must be pretty proud of yourself. You're up 2-0 in the series." He goes, "What's there to be proud of?
Yeah.
Job's not done."
Yeah.
And that's right where my mind went. It wasn't, yes, I'm so proud of this pod. I am, but it wasn't what came to my mind. Like, I hadn't even thought about, hey Matt, are you proud of yourself? Because I feel like there's a million more bands I still need to reach. There's I want to build it up, and so it gets to a wider audience, and the more people that talk about it and know about it, the better. But yeah, it was a really hard question for me to answer.
Yeah, man. And I think with any project that involves social good, the goal is always to work yourself out of a job, right? Like I would be thrilled if I open my email one day and I read, "Y'all, To Write Love on Our Arms is closing because we've solved depression, or anxiety is no longer a problem, or addiction doesn't exist anymore." But when we're talking about mental health, we're talking about challenges that have been with humanity since the day we became self-aware. That we're talking about, even if your depression or your anxiety isn't diagnosed, isn't clinical, you still know what it feels like to be powerless, or to feel betrayed at some point, or to feel unknown or unknowable, right? So it's there's definitely a balance in wanting to work tirelessly and also acknowledge our own humanity, the limits of our ability to keep going, to keep driving, and that will require us to lean into other people. That's going to require more of these relationships that open more doors. That, you know,
Yeah.
Matthew, you inviting us means I get to talk to people about hope and help that I never would have been able to meet in any other avenue besides your friendliness, besides your hospitality. So, you know, there's 8 billion people on the planet, which means that there's 8 billion different ways that pain can be felt in a real way. But that also means there's 8 billion opportunities for people to feel known, for people to feel cared for. And we're going to be fighting until we get 100% hit rate on people. Not that a bad day will never exist, but if when a bad day happens, you know that it's not all on you to get through it of your own volition, that there's other people there that have dedicated their lives to ensuring that you feel cared for.
Yeah. One of the things you said earlier was sometimes when you talk to people, it takes them years to kind of deal with stuff from the past. You know, it could be 10 years later, it could be 20 years later. I feel a lot of people, including myself, don't get help until it's absolutely needed. Like, you have to hit rock bottom before you can actually like do something about it. Because that was me. I was really depressed for a long time before that, but it wasn't until my attempt where I was like, okay, I need help. And I'm finding that a lot of people are the same. They don't want to deal with it, or don't know how to deal with it until it becomes a major issue. Are you, so you had said that in your experience dealing with that, why do you think that is? Why do you think it takes that for someone to be like, hey, I need help?
It's one of the most insidious myths out there. Like, there is such thing as a rock bottom. But some people's rock bottom is the end of the story. So at any point that we can alleviate this feeling of being in free fall, like, I don't want you to hit bottom. Like that, I want to get to you before, you know, things feel unmanageably heavy. A lot of it is trying to save face. A lot of it is trying to prop up our ego in a way that you know, we've been given these myths of a self-made person. That doesn't exist. Like, everyone has achieved some level of success or some level of progress based on the hard work of countless other individuals, you know, people that you may never know, people you may never meet, but we bought this idea that you reach success independently, that being independent is the most important thing out there. And I bought that lie for a while too. When I was navigating the deepest struggles of my mental health life, I was an RA at my university. I was the resident advisor. I was there as the answer guy to younger students as I'm struggling with drugs, as I'm struggling with self-injury, as I'm struggling with, you know, could I, should I, would I wake up tomorrow? So I had all the info to help other people, but I didn't feel the access for myself to get that help. So a piece of it was just trying to save face. We also get into these thought patterns of, yeah, well, so-and-so has it a lot worse. Look, man, like, we don't need to compare what bones are broken worse than others in order to get a cast. You know, so I think that's a piece. Like, someone else hurting more doesn't make your hurt less. It's still real. It's still something that that deserves attention. And then I think the third thought pattern that really cycles through here is this idea of being okay, or the idea that I can convince myself that I'm okay.
Mm.
So, if I, am just walking to my favorite cafe for lunch and I see a kid fall off his bike and clearly break his leg, I see that his leg is broken, and I say, "Hey, man, like, let's call an ambulance, get in my car, I'll drive you to the hospital." And I'm saying, "No, no, 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 I'm okay, I'm okay." No, it's very obvious that you're not okay. I see where you are hurting. Oh, well,
Yeah.
someone else has had it worse. Well, that other person's probably already in the hospital. So,
Yeah, sure.
if you want, we can get adjoining beds so that you can talk about this and compare. Or, I think I can, that person wouldn't say I can outthink this pain, or I can outbelieve this pain, right? No, like, you outthinking that pain isn't gonna all of a sudden reset that broken leg. All of that to say, okay is highly relative. I
Yeah.
was talking to a
Yeah,
family
that's
friend
true.
recently,
Mm.
and his grandson, a couple years back, was in a traumatic car accident that ended up ending the life of another driver, and it wasn't this kid's fault, but that's that's uh that's a real point of pain. That's real. And so I'm talking to him. I'm like, "Hey, man, like, has your grandson thought about uh, counseling? Working through this?" And he goes, "Well, no, he's okay. He keeps saying he's okay." And I said, "Man, I'm sure he does think he's okay, but
Mm.
you deserve better than okay. Okay is the bare minimum of
That's a
what I
good
want for
point.
you. I want you to be great. I want you to be healing.
Mm.
I want you to feel like you're making progress. I want you to be proud. If you can't be proud of where you are, then be proud of how far you've come, right? That's taken effort." So, yeah, I really think it's those a collection of entangled myths and lies about how we get through life, what we value about ourselves, and what we believe other people value about us. Because if I am just saying that I'm okay while I'm masking that and self-medicating that, and that formula is rapidly accelerating my own decline,
Mm.
then who is benefiting from any of this? Right? Like, it's and it's so I mention these as myths, and I mention them as lies, not to shame anyone that's listening to this and hears these familiar voices, uh, but to let you know, like, it is such an easy trap to fall into. And
Yeah.
there are pathways out of that. There are tried and true methods of making some steps out. But I am convinced of this: it is possible to progress through pain without other people. I've seen it happen a time or two,
It's true.
but you don't get extra credit for doing it alone.
Yeah.
So
When I was
why?
going through my stuff, I was completely alone. It was me and my cat. It was just us two. But
Yeah.
I lived alone. And there were so many nights where I was kind of thinking the same thing. I'm like, I am by myself right now. What is my purpose here? Why is this all happening to me? And then years later, looking back on it, I'm like, man, I learned so much about myself through that
Yeah.
process. Like,
Yeah.
once you can kind of push through it, and looking back on it on the other side of it, that's when you can really be like, I am proud of myself for doing that.
Yeah.
Because you're
Yes.
right, it's easy to fall into a pattern of depression because it's comfortable. Some of us get comfortable in that, and it's like, I want to feel sad, I want to feel this, but sometimes that's okay, but not all the time. And that's kind of what I was doing. I was listening to sad, depressive music every single day, And I'm like, okay, I love these songs, but I can't just dwell in this. So I put on like Avenged Sevenfold that pumps me up, or like Metallica or something like that. And it would totally change my mindset, you know?
Yeah, and I think one huge benefit in trying to hack your own brain is getting objective viewers of the situation outside of your own lived experience. That we often can become really unreliable narrators to our own story.
Yeah.
That we really need people in our lives to tell us like, hey man, like, you doing okay? And you're like, yeah, I'm okay. They're like, okay, quick timeout. Bullshit. I know you're not. Because you're my best friend and I haven't seen you smile in 4 months. Like,
I can see it in your eyes.
Let me in. Right. Like, let me into this. Let's figure this out.
Yeah.
We often are more self-damning than our friends or family would ever be towards us.
Absolutely.
We become so hyper critical of ourselves, and because of that we lose objectivity. We forget the things that jazz us up. You're like, man, like I haven't felt one iota of initiative, in so long. And your friend comes along and says, well, dude, like, remember how hyped you used to get listening to Avenged? Like, let's pop that on. Let's go for a drive. I'll drive, I'll be chauffeur, and we're going to listen to this album from start to finish. And I'm going to dare you to not sing along and smile and, feel like yourself again. Like, and then halfway through that drive, you're like, oh yeah, there are pieces of me that are still alive that are just untapped at the moment. But having people that know us to remind us of the life that we still carry, man, that's going to be a huge treasure.
Yeah. So you're at a lot of festivals. You go to shows, you're on ships. What is kind of the difference in your opinion of being in a like a festival environment where there's bands and people are stoked and they're hyped up to see their bands? What is kind of the difference between doing it in person and online?
Oh man, it's the energy that you get from a live show or a festival is irreplaceable. The lack of perfection is really what makes a lot of these moments super special. That it's not just hopping onto your Spotify or Apple Music most recently played or top played songs or whatever, where you know exactly what's going to happen, when it's going to happen, how it's going to happen. But seeing a song live that doesn't sound flawless, that can be more beautiful. That finding something that is happening passionately in front of you, the banter in between songs, those moments, the sense of community that festival goers feel, people that only see each other this 1 week of the year, that, these are their neighbors. They choose to camp by each other. They choose to go to these shows together. They're there, with a Sharpie, marking how many times they crowd surfed on each other's shirts. Like you get these moments of again, this interdependence, this idea of community that really comes to the surface. And beyond that, just I'm someone that loves metaphor, so I'm gonna launch into another one. Being at a show, you, Matthew, showing up to one of these shows changes everything about that place. On one level, because that's a smile that I wouldn't have seen. Just, if our favorite guitarist nails his most famous solo and we get to high five each other for that, that's a moment that
right.
I would have been robbed of if you didn't show up.
Yeah.
You showing up to the show actually changes how everyone else hears the music. That's just the way sound works. Sound exists because it's bouncing off of things.
Yeah.
Your body changes the sound in a room, in a field, in, you know, a parking lot, you name it, you showing up has made a difference. And I might not always be able to put my finger on exactly why it's different.
Yeah.
But I refuse to imagine a reality in which you weren't here with me. Right? Like,
it feels very spiritual in a way.
It does. It
yeah.
is, man. Like, if music is not spiritual, then nothing is.
Yeah.
Like, there's because it's more than just the sum of its parts. It's not just the lyrics. It's not just the instruments. It's not just the production. It's not just the lights. It's all of it coming together and realizing that at the core of it all is a human capacity to be creative and relatable. And I've yet to find something besides live art that can replicate that sense of power.
Yeah, you know? Good point. Yeah, me too. So for me, going to shows for the last like 25 years or so, I've seen a little bit of a change in kind of the mental health talk when it comes to the bands on stage. There's a lot of bands that come on stage and maybe halfway through it or a couple songs into it, they go, you know what? This world is nuts and we all have stuff we're going through. Here at the show, leave that stuff outside. When you're at this show, you get all of that out. Go in the mosh pit, do something physical. Crowd surf, do something physical. This band wouldn't exist if it wasn't for you guys. So leave all your problems outside. This show is where you leave all that.
Yeah.
Forget about it. And I think that that's a huge part of that spiritual sense too, where metaphorically you could leave your emotions outside for a little bit. Before I go in, I'm going to place it here on this chair. And when I walk into that show, that chair doesn't exist anymore.
Yeah. And who knows, maybe by the time that show ends, you're walking back out and you realize, you know, that's a piece of baggage that I don't need to bring home with me.
Absolutely.
That if I can just put something heavy down for a little bit, you realize how much lighter life can be. And, you know, this is not a project of positivity. I'm not here telling you how to live your best life, but I am here telling you that you don't have to live life alone. And again, like we've kind of seen, you know, those messages from stage run the gamut. Like there was a time, you know, about 10 or 15 years ago where it was very in vogue of just to say something positive. And after a while, people started saying, you know, like, positivity does exist, but I really just need something real. I need permission for this to suck right now.
Yeah.
And that's allowed.
Yeah, that only lasts temporarily.
Yeah.
You need something long-term to help you out and guide you through it.
Totally. So in the spirit of that, I definitely want to let people know that if you're listening to this and you feel like you're ready to take some steps towards more therapeutic relationships, maybe that's felt like a longer way off. It seems like a point on the horizon that never gets closer. Like, let this be a moment where we bring death to that distance. And if you or someone you love is looking for some help, please give us a visit at twloha.com. The website exists to be a hub of stories, a hub of connectivity, a hub of resources as well. So if you go to that website, in the upper right-hand corner, you're going to find a button that says Find Help. If you click on that, you're going to find a number of resources that are categorized by topic, by specific mental health challenge, also by key identifiers. If you're part of the BIPOC community, if you are part of the queer community, if you have veteran status, we have resources just for you there. But then you scroll down a little bit and you'll see an invitation to select a level of care. Maybe it's a counselor or a peer support group or even residential treatment options. And you can type in your zip code and a list of affordable mental health care options will pop up in your area.
That's amazing.
So often we don't ask for help because we don't know who to ask. So we're making this as streamlined, as simple as possible. And if at any point you're curious about resources or you feel like you're bumping up against a wall, send us an email, send us a DM. We respond to everything that comes in. You don't need to feel like you have to figure this out by yourself. We're here for you.
How do you separate your job from your daily life? Like when you're hearing all these stories all the time and you're helping people, when you step away from that, like let's just say 8 o'clock at night, you're having dinner, how do you separate those heavy emotions from, holding on to those yourself personally? Where's that disconnect at for you? Or do you feel like you need to kind of hold on to it sometimes because it's important?
Yeah, that's a great question, and kind of giving grace to the whole spectrum of that. Like, there are certain stories and interactions that I do hold close. A piece of it is because the energy to express what that moment meant, I might not have that much energy left in me for that.
Right.
But one thing that I started doing about 15 years ago is writing these emails back to my team when I'm out on the road, of just recapping, what t-shirts are selling well and how many people were at the event and how much literature I was able to distribute. I get the facts in there, but then the majority of those emails are stories of people that we got to meet. And a piece of that is to help me process and digest that heaviness, that it's not just sitting with me, but it's able to move through me. And then a piece of it is I realize just how fortunate I am to have the job that I have, that even with the rest of my coworkers at To Write Love on Our Arms, there's a lot of folks who don't get out behind the desk. They don't get out behind a booth at a festival or anything like that. They, their skills and their expertise have them away from what I interpret to be the main action of it all. So my hope is to tie back into them the importance of the work that they do, even though if they aren't sweating with me and being sleep deprived with me and getting dusty and dirty with me.
Yeah.
And they can still realize, no, I'm out here because of the work that you're still doing at headquarters. You are enabling all this to happen. I just get to hear the story, but any bit of gratitude I receive, that's to be spread out with all of y'all on this team. So
that's amazing.
So I'm able to process some of these stories. I'm able to, it's not compartmentalizing it, but it is moving the weights to different cabinets,
I was just going to say that, like, in a way, when you, at the end of the day, you're analyzing everything that happened, writing that email and pressing that send button, it's almost like you're letting it, you're releasing all that weight, and that's a literal release, and you can kind of take a little bit off of you.
Yeah. And I mean, the reality is I also have an incredible support network. I have friends that check in on me regularly, and my partner is fortunately a mental health professional, and they know when I'm carrying things in a healthy way and when it's less than healthy, and they're able to check in on me. So it's again, like it's about other people. That at the heart of it all, people need other people. Even the helpers need other people. So it's we're all in this together.
Yeah. So music. But besides what you do for To Write Love on Our Arms, how has music affected your life? Just in regular day stuff, driving, dealing with your own stuff, relationships. Like what relationship do you have with music on just a personal level?
Yeah. I mean, music has certainly been a friend in some dark places and lonely places. And I've had a handful of relationships with musicians that have really helped me uh, figure out what are the next best steps to take in my own life, in my own relationships, and my own questions and doubts. And you I think, for me, like music at different parts of the calendar is just the thing I have to talk over in order to do my job. Um, and honestly, my love of music has also nurtured a deep love of stillness and silence. That not everything needs to be cranked to 11. A huge part of music is this idea of rest. Not everything can be a note. Sometimes it needs to be the absent of a note. And that doesn't mean that the song's not going anywhere, but you need that pause in order for the next note, the next chord, the next words to make sense. So
Yeah.
as I've gotten older, I've learned that I don't need constant volume at all times, but really celebrating the moments that feel a bit quieter, a bit more intimate. There's a lot of power and purpose and growth that happens through that. Um, but yeah, I've also found music, especially on like long drives, to be um, good catalyst for thought and
Absolutely.
for exercising some emotions as well. And I can easily go from a piano driven emo ballad to a metalcore breakdown,
Yeah.
from song one to song two. It's yeah, man. I still love music. It's
Yeah.
uh despite all the opportunity to just be over it, to feel jaded by it. But I think a piece of it is being able to see music evolve, even over these past 20 years that I've been touring, or 18 years that I've been touring consistently. Not just seeing bands change, but seeing the landscape of music change. Here's one thing I love is we go to a lot of EDM events these days, and
Mm.
when we go there, we'll set up and people be like, man, I remember you from Warped Tour. And I thought when
Yeah.
I left that pop punk scene, that I was going to be saying goodbye to Write Love on Our Arms. And I'm just so glad that you're here now. And we're
Mm.
also seeing just genres become way more blendy and fusiony and less descript than ever. Like I think we're literally just a couple years away from seeing an EDM artist like Sullivan King or Sudden Death play at a rock and metal show. Like it's
Yeah.
it's right there. Like it's all about culture. It's all about community. It's all about music that moves us. And we've been holding on to some really shallow definitions of genre for too long. So I'm excited to see where the festival space will be moving in the next 5
See
years.
the worlds collide.
Yeah,
It's all music. It's all
it's
that
all
energy.
music.
You know what
Yeah.
I mean? Yeah, absolutely. So I've got a couple more questions and then we can wrap it up.
Sure.
I know you're probably super busy, so I appreciate it. Um, so next weekend I'm going to be in Denver, Colorado. I the podcast is sponsoring a show out there, and I'm going to have
Nice.
a booth. I'm going to be talking to people about the podcast and have mental health resources. It's going to be my first time really doing something like that. So,
Yeah.
what advice do you have for somebody like me who is doing kind of what you're doing, and talking to people? Like, where, yeah, I guess where do I start? I
Yeah.
guess.
So you're doing this because your heart is leading you there. Don't forget that your heart lives inside your body, and your body has needs and your body has limits. So
Mm.
stay fed, stay hydrated, If you don't have some high fidelity earplugs, get them. All of these small ways to care for your physical body is going to be such a benefit down the road to your mental health as well. Taking those breaks, realizing that at a live show, it is impossible to see it all. And the good news of, living in the 21st century is that whatever you miss, someone else is going to record and pop up on YouTube anyway. So just be the places that you want to be the most. And for some people, that means camping out at one stage for the entire time, and that's fine. For other people, it's about running around and making sure you get the full quote unquote festival experience, and that's fine too. But you don't got to pick a lane. You can do whatever feels like the most Matthew thing to do. Stretch yourself a little bit, dip your toe into what feels like a stretch, but no, man, that you're here at the end of the day to enjoy this. So figure out what that means and lean into that. But definitely the headphones or the earplugs rather. Get on it. Cause once your eardrum goes, it don't come back too good.
Yeah, that's true. That's definitely true. I'm going to read you some stats real quick, and then I'm going to follow it up with a question for you.
Yeah.
I'm on your website. $4.3 million invested in treatment and recovery. 31,891 hours of therapy funded. 217,000 searches on our Find Help tools. That's a massive reach and massive things you guys are doing. That's incredible. I know earlier you said more work needs to be done. When I look at that, I guess my question is, where do you go from here? What is that next step for you? What is, you're doing the festivals, you're doing the show, you're doing all this. When you think about more work to be done, what is that work?
So we set a really ambitious, dare I say, aggressive goal for this year. For 20 years of stories, we're hoping to directly fund 20,000 hours of direct therapeutic care. We have a number of strategies to achieve that. It's the biggest goal that we've set by a factor of like 4. Like, this is huge for us. And the only way for us to do that is going to be through the help of folks like you and the folks watching and listening, sharing the word, not just about To Write Love and not just about this, nondescript idea of mental health, but the direct avenues to care that do exist. Our website is a great starting point for all of that. But yeah, like, it's the goal for me whenever I show up to a festival is to do my job in such a way that will allow me to see the same people the next year. There are, Matthew, there's shows, there's festivals that when I'm signing the contract to show up, I already have names and faces like lining up in my mental checklist of, man, if I go here, I know I need to see Corey, I need to see Shane, and I need to see Nora. If I don't see these people, it won't feel like a full festival to me. So I need to check in on these people. I need to see their story. I need to give them a hug. I need to give them some encouragement. And that's my hope. Wherever I leave, I already have the clock restarted for 51 more weeks until I can continue the story with this person. So, yeah, it's where to go from there. It's you want it to feel like more of the same, but you also want to meet more people as you go as well. So it's I want to rinse, wash, and repeat, and add more folks to the equation as well. Yeah, I'm excited, man. It's I'm bummed that it's only February and my calendar doesn't really kick off until May.
Sure, yeah.
But it's gonna be an awesome year.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, it is. I love that. It's going to be an awesome year. Um, so my last question that I have for you is if you can leave our audience with one piece of advice or, how you would recommend someone to get started, just what is something that you want to leave with our audience to remember? That's part of your mission.
Yeah, yeah. I just mentioned it a couple minutes ago, but believe me when I say that people need other people, and your story is something sacred. I would not encourage you to start online as a platform to share your story. You deserve to share your story in such a way that you can see someone's eye water, that you can feel their posture change, that you can track with how they're receiving, some of the things that you're telling them. And you deserve a hug at the end of sharing whatever it is you're sharing. That's something that the internet will never be able to give you. There may be a time when in your recovery where you are able to launch into a podcast or to write a blog about your experience. But in all of this, I believe in the core of who I am, that you deserve to have someone tangible to receive your story. And it's gonna feel very vulnerable. It's gonna feel like there's going to be some pain involved. There's going to be a lot of questions, but you don't need to answer everything in one go. In many ways, when you are sharing your story, what you're really doing is inviting kind of your own superhero team of Avengers to help solve, the biggest problems that you're facing.
Yeah.
You're trying to figure out, who you can rely on, what their, unique gifts are, what their special abilities are to meet you in vulnerable places to ensure that we get to see tomorrow together. So
see tomorrow together. I love that.
Yeah, man. So
that's a good quote.
So it's
put that on a t-shirt.
yeah. So we do have plenty "We'll see you tomorrow" stuff out there, but it's that together piece that I think is really important.
Yeah.
But yeah. So I would encourage you, take some time and find someone you trust to share your story. I know for me personally, that had to start outside of my family. I realized that in my context, sharing immediately with my family would not have been the best step for me. But I still had my friends, Kim and Blake and Pete, to lean on as I took steps in my journey, and, eventually letting my family in on that. So you get to call the shots. You get to choose how and to whom you share your story, but I do hope that you share it. I do hope that you find someone to live life with.
Yeah. Well, just talking to someone.
Yeah, man.
It's crazy how just talking to someone will change your life.
Yeah.
It takes one word or one quote or one metaphor to just wire our brain a little differently and see it differently. Like the words bravery, the words, the phrases, "you're not alone." Take those things and run with them. Make them your own. Ugh. Well, I'm going to say it one more time just because it sounds so cool. Chad from To Write Love on Her Arms.
Well, let me repeat the favor. So you got to say my name, where I'm from, and I got to say I just spent an hour and a half with my new friend, Matthew, from Heavy Mental Breakdown. That sounds cool.
That's amazing. That's amazing. Thank you for your time. I know you're super busy and you've got a million things you could probably be doing, but you hung out here in this little rock and roll space that I've created on this podcast with Heavy Mental Breakdown. I appreciate you. I appreciate everything you guys are doing. Whenever I hear the name To Right Love on Our Arms, it's a very kind of what's the word, nostalgic feeling. It takes me back to a time of just having fun at Warped Tour and seeing A Day to Remember live or something like that, you know, being in a pit, going to booths, buying the Vans hats, you know what I mean? It's just like, and it takes me back to Hot Topic days when those gates were still on and it was dark and heavy. Like, it just the name alone takes me to a better place.
Yeah.
It's wild.
Well, buddy, thanks for playing a role in our story. Best of luck with this Denver show. I hope you have a blast. And yeah, can't wait to see you out on the road somewhere.
Absolutely. Me too, Chad.